Welcome to a special edition of Education, the Rest of the Story. I'm Nancy Montoya, sitting in for good friends David Saphir and Ann Eve Peterson. Now, unless you've been locked in a closet for the past month, you know that the Arizona State Legislature has now closed and they have passed some drastic cuts in the budget. Taking big hits is public education. Our universities have been hit. Also, Pima College and Maricopa College, our two largest community colleges, will get zero from the state legislature. K through 12 has also taken another big hit. Today we're going to talk about one program that may not survive the drastic budget cuts. Hello there.
Hi,
we
Nancy.
have with me today Greg Deanna, who is the Director of Communications, or the PR Director, for JTED, the Joint Technology Education District. There we go. We've been hearing a lot about JTED, and there's been a lot of people who are upset, who say we need JTED. First of all, tell us, what is JTED? How did it start?
Well, the Joint Technical Education District was created by voters here in Pima County in 2006. And what we do is we work with business and industry partners to deliver premier career and technical education, what we used to call vocational education programs, to all high school students in Pima County, also San Manuel and Rio Rico. But in a nutshell, Nancy, what we do is we create taxpayers, not tax takers.
Wow. Now, I know that 6 years, when did it come into play?
About 7 years ago.
7 years ago. The voters here in Pima County said, this is a big void we have. We're not raising all college students. There needs to be an alternative for some students. Tell me how JTED fills that void.
Correct. Well, as we saw in many of our high schools, for example, when I brought my own daughter to enroll in high school, many of the programs like the auto shop and the home ec rooms were gone, and they didn't exist. And business and industry were hungry for a pipeline of skilled workers, and it's essential for them. In fact, the number two reason why businesses do not expand is a lack of skilled workers. So when educators were discussing this Joint Technology Education District, and the business community really jumped behind it to create these programs and provide what we call it career and technical education versus vocational, is the programs are more highly skilled now with computerized equipment. Even in the culinary arts, we no longer offer home ec anywhere. It's culinary arts so that they can work with relevant skills for industry's needs.
Remember back in the day when you and I were in high school, there was auto shop, which all the guys wanted to take. It's not auto shop anymore, is it? It's not your father's auto shop.
Not at all. As we've seen our own cars change, and we'd be at a loss to work on them. The technology has changed, and we've really kept up with that so that our workforce is relevant. When our students enter the workforce, they're prepared for these jobs. And one of the other big needs of industry was that the students have what we call the soft skills, that they knew how to hold a job and behave professionally in the workplace and interact with their customers. And that's something that we also teach all of our students.
Let's talk a little bit about what types of programs are offered. One of them that caught my eye is the aviation technology. In high school, they're learning aviation technology. Tell me about that.
Absolutely. We partner with Pima Community College and their center at the Aviation Center. Our students can start their junior year of high school towards earning their airframe and power plant certification. And we had one young lady who went through Tucson High School, and a year after graduating high school, she was able to secure a job making somewhere around the neighborhood of 60 grand a year for Bombardier, and a major employer. And when they hired her, they said, we need 200 more of you. So these jobs are really need to be filled in this country, and we need a skilled workforce.
So from aviation technology to early childhood development, tell me a little bit about early childhood development. That seems to kind of span the whole spectrum.
It does, and some people think that that's more for working in a kindergarten, and it certainly fits that need. We do need early childhood education teachers, but we have many students in that program as well who want to become pediatricians. And so that's a great way to learn about child development in that program. At JTED, we have a state-run preschool, or state-licensed, preschool that accepts actual clients, 3 to 5-year-olds.
Wow.
We're enrolling now for Little Lions Preschool, and our instructor and the students work in the preschool, and so we have a live learning situation. So they're getting real hands-on skills. And this is what attracts students to our JTED program. They love the hands-on learning. They love the relevant skills that they're gaining.
The emergency medical technicians, you know, I was talking to a couple of the JTED students, and there are students who go into that particular program because down the road they want to become doctors or they want to be an emergency room physician. Talk a little bit about that particular program.
Correct. And well, one thing to clear up about JTED too, it's not just for students who aren't going to college. We always say moving students to careers and college, because those students who want to become a doctor certainly are going into med school. But this gives them the vital training for that, to see if they really like it and enjoy the work, if they can handle seeing people when they're at their worst. When we call 911, we need help and we're in a desperate situation. And our EMT program, which is taught by EMTs from the field, Rural Metro is one of our partners, Northwest Fire also partners with us. They teach these students that you are really have a lot of responsibility to that person, because you're seeing them at their very worst moment, and you have to deliver comfort and help them. And it's amazing to see the transformation in our students from the beginning of the year as the course progresses to the end of the year, because they've learned how to speak with patients and set them at ease, in addition to learning the skills of how to extract them from a car safely and put them on a backboard.
I would imagine that some of those skills are greatly needed also in the law enforcement field. You also have a program that concentrates on law enforcement, don't you?
We do. We have our law and public safety program, and we have many students who have gone through that program successfully. They train at the Public Safety Academy where our police officers train. They have to do the same obstacle course. They do many of the same activities. They learn search and seizure protocol. They learn about the Constitution and law. So students from this program not only go into law enforcement, some choose to join the military, but also many work in the court system, some become lawyers.
Wow. Why JTED? I mean, what happened back 7 years ago when the light went on and people started saying, you know, we need a better way to train our students? What happened back then?
I think some of the things we saw were the dropout rate, and the high school graduation rate in Arizona hovers around 76%. The graduation rate for students going through a career and technical education program like JTED is 99 to 98%.
Wow.
So there's a huge increase, and again, that's because we bring in the relevance of learning, the hands-on learning. That attracts the students and it keeps them motivated. My own daughter was an A-B student, and she had to take algebra 3 times. She'll kill me for telling you that, and everybody else that. But when she got into fashion design, then math clicked for her. She realized why she needed to know it. And we had some of our fire science kids ask the chief, why do I need to know math? And he says, because when you're running water through these hoses, you'll kill yourself or someone else or damage the engine if you don't know math. And so then we have math incorporated into these CTE programs, and the students learn it in a field that they love. And so they're motivated to learn.
It seems like in these down economic times, we need to keep the programs that are working. How does JTED feel about the budget cuts and what has happened? How is that going to impact JTED down the road?
Well, one of the things that the legislature did this session is, one, they passed the budget in law, not session law.
Right.
So these laws are permanent, and they cut our funding mechanism so that the per pupil funding actually ends up being less. And let's take an example without delving into school finance.
Okay.
But if we have a student at Tucson High who takes their core classes and then say PE or office aid, the school gets their 1 ADM funding that they normally get. But if that student suddenly adds a CTE JTED course, the school district will now, under this budget, be penalized $344. They will lose. And what that translates to is a 50% cut in, for example, TUSD's funding for CTE JTED courses. And it's going to be hard to maintain these courses because they are very expensive to deliver. That's one thing that the voters approved the extra funding for. We know auto shop and keeping that up-to-date equipment, precision machining, having CNC machines that students can learn on, delivering medical assistant programs. Those are all expensive programs to deliver.
How many programs are there within JTED?
We have over 50 throughout the county.
Wow. And what will happen? I know that the budget is probably, you're good for 2015 and 2016, but
Correct.
Beyond that, what does the future look like?
2016 and 17 look bleak, and we're not sure which programs will end first. I use the analogy, it's kind of like being in a room that's going to run out of oxygen. We know that people aren't going to make it. We don't know who's going to go first, but we know we're not going to sustain everyone. And it's a dire situation. Some districts are a little bit different than others. Across the board, they're all facing about a 50% cut in their funding for these programs. Some of it's not what the governor by any means wanted, but it will cut salaries, it will cut teachers, it will affect programs. And when you have fewer teachers, you have fewer students. That's what your funding is based on. So it starts a spiraling downward trend into our programs. And that's why we do not feel our programs will be sustainable with that budget.
Now, I know that the folks involved with JTED, the administrators, the teachers, all are very aware of what these budget cuts mean. But what about the students? Are they aware? Are they in the know of what's going on, and what's their reaction been?
You know, one of the things that our own legislature and governor want to see is civic engagement, and they got it.
They got it big time.
Our students are very much aware, and what's interesting is even though we say, you know, these cuts aren't going to hit for 2016, 2017, they don't affect you. We're finding that our students are very passionate because they want to make sure that these programs and opportunities are available for the next round of students coming through after them. They see the value that they've received, and they don't want to see other students denied that same opportunity. So it's really neat. It's very refreshing for us to see that young people, we tend to think of them as that generation we don't quite understand, and they're self-centered and everything else. It's not true. These students are very engaged, and they're very passionate about keeping these programs alive and well.
Where to from here? I mean, if you're looking at 2017 as being a bleak year, what are the alternatives? What are the options?
What we predict happening is that things will slide back to where they were pre-JTED. And this kind of happened in 2011 a little bit. The legislature, unknowingly, and we had a few legislators here in the Tucson area apologize to us later because they said we really didn't know what we were doing, but they cut our budget by 50% in Pima County.
Wow.
When they eliminated freshman funding, again, the mechanism. And what that did was we went from having 24,000 students enrolled in career and technical education programs down to 12,000, which was our pre-start level.
Wow.
And so we expect that to start happening as well. Right now we have about 15,000 students engaged in our programs, and it's going to go away.
You know, on paper, JTED seems like a wonderful program. In reality, is it working? I mean, when all is said and done, does JTED work?
It's working beautifully, and it's a program that has always enjoyed bipartisan support, because that's what we do, is we put students to work, we give them the skills to be able to earn a living and support themselves. It's in industries that we have a need for. The medical industry is hungry for skilled workers to join. One of the great relationships we have with Tucson Medical Center, we have an internship program through them. They've hired more than 200 of our students.
Wow.
And they offer tuition reimbursement. So our students aren't just entering as certified nursing assistants and patient care techs, but then once they get there, they have the tuition reimbursement, and they're going on earning their RN degrees or higher, or becoming other techs in other areas of medicine. So
I have to admit that when years ago when I heard about JTED, I thought, oh, this is kind of like a slack group that, you know, they can't finish school, so they're going to put them in career and technical education. Wow, did I have a rude awakening. That's not the case at all. It's tough, isn't it?
It's very tough, and I want to point to one of our programs at Sunnyside High School. They're extracting DNA for actual clients.
Wow.
For native seed search, and the University of Arizona. So they're doing actual research, laboratory research that is of value to organizations. I don't know about you, but I was not extracting DNA. I'm not even sure I knew what DNA was when I was in high school.
I can't extract it now.
So we have a student in our precision machining program at Desert View High School who designed a bolt that can hold a weapon onto an airplane, the wing of an airplane.
Wow.
And then he went into his precision machining class and was able to actually create that bolt using 3D printing. So these are amazing technological advances that our students are doing, things that we never even dreamed of. And when we, people tend to criticize public education in the generation of today, and it's an easy thing to do. But really what we need to do is take a look and say, am I out of touch with today's world? Maybe I don't know the capital of Connecticut. However, the students know they can look that's on their phone in their pocket. They can pull it up at any time, but they're doing amazing work. And our other programs, a lot of people mistake cosmetology for an easy program. It's 1,600 hours, so that's a lot of instruction. They have to know anatomy, physiology, they have to know chemistry. There's many things to cosmetology that the students have to know.
It is. It's frustrating, isn't it? I mean, when you're involved with these students every day, and I assume you're on campus and you see them all the time, the frustration level must be just unbearable right now.
It is. It's hard, you know, but what I really worry about is that what will the future students do when they don't have the skills, when they're lost in high school. And I know as a parent, my biggest fear was that my kids wouldn't get off my couch. I wanted them to be able to leave home. I want them to be able to support themselves in a job that makes them happy. I really didn't care what they did as long as they enjoyed doing it and it was an honorable living. And that's what I see JTED students doing. We have to remember, Nancy, they go to high school all day long. And then they choose to come to us after school.
That's what I was amazed when I learned this. We were talking earlier that JTED is not instead of school, it's in addition to school.
Correct.
What is an average day like for some of these kids?
Well, it depends. Now, some of our satellite programs that are going to take this huge hit, those classes are during their day. However, there are more intensive classes. We do have the bioscience and engineering programs as well that these students are engaged in. Many times that includes after-school activities and what we call career and technical student organizations, those things like DECA and FBLA. They participate in those competitions that teach leadership and everything else. So that can almost be, you know, a part-time job in addition to school. Our students who come to the central campus, for example, our cosmetology students, it's almost like they live there. They're there day and night. They hurry from school, they come to us, and then they leave in the early evening and then go home and do their homework. 1,600 hours is a lot.
Wow, that's amazing. You know, yesterday I met a wonderful young lady. Her name is Caitlin Olson. She is amazing, and she told me that if it were not for JTED, she might still be lost today, but instead, she's been working for 6 years in a career that she loves.
I break tradition. Sometimes my tries are outside the line. We've been conditioned to not make mistakes, but I can't live that way. Staring at the blank page.
Before I met JTED, I wasn't a very good student whatsoever. It was, I ditched class a lot. I had to go to a new high school in order to make up all the credits and really buckle down in order to graduate high school. I wasn't really motivated whatsoever. Honestly, I just woke up one day. I was going to that new high school. I heard over the intercom, you know, cosmetology, there's, you know, but you have to write an essay, and I'm like, oh, I'm not good at essays, I just won't go for it. And the next day I woke up and I looked at my mom and I'm like, I'm not gonna graduate high school. I have nothing. I have no life ahead of me. I don't know what to do. Like, and she's just like, you know what? You told me 2 months ago, you need to figure it out. This is not my thing. This is your life. And I was 16 years old. And So I decided, I was like, okay, I'm going to write an essay. I'm going to get into this program. I have to buckle down and really try really hard in order to graduate high school. The GPA for JTED was like 3.2, 3.3, and my GPA was nowhere near that. So I had to get A's and B's for the rest of the semester even to just qualify. So I buckled down and I got A's and B's, and I had to turn in my transcript and I had to turn in my essay.
Tell me a little bit about what you went through for the classes. Did you feel they were worth it? Do you feel like they prepared you?
They definitely, JTED definitely prepared me for life outside of high school. It's adult education. It's something that they give you all the tools for it, but if you don't want it, you're not going to succeed. So as an individual student, you have to be motivated enough to actually want this in your life. You have about 300 hours in the classroom, and then there's 1,600 hours total. And 300 was in the classroom teaching you about what cosmetology is, and 1,300 hours, which is a lot of hours, actually on the floor doing people's hair, doing clients' hair. And so they gave us that tool in order to know how to do a consultation, to prepare you, sanitize your tools. If it wasn't for JTED, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be motivated. I wouldn't have a career. They really gave you, how do I put this into words? They give you the tools for you to succeed. They don't just hand you success. They give you the tools that you've got to want it, and you've got to put yourself out there and really go for it.
The rest is still unwritten.
Oh, written. The rest is still unwritten.
And imagine this young lady is a taxpayer. She's been working for 6 years and has been paying taxes all that time, hasn't she?
You asked if JTED worked. This is what it say. This is what we do, and this is how we work.
We have a guest that just miraculously appeared on our set here. This is Aline McCullough, and she is the Director of Operations for Specialists in Dermatology.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We've been talking a lot about how JTED is good for the students and how it's an important thing for the students. But it's also good for business.
Yes.
You're a business that is using JTED students. Tell me a little bit about what you do and your feelings about JTED.
So JTED and my practice basically partner. What we do is the students, after they complete their programming, they go into an internship at our practice. So for us, what that means is that we get an applicant pool for upcoming jobs, and you basically get 6 weeks or more to train, to watch them work, to see how they are, and to make a decision based on that of a high quality trained professional at that point. And for the students, it really offers them an ability to learn something really important, I think, at a young age, which is the ability to fail and not be terrified by it. You know, basically when you go to school and you learn through programming, you know, you get all the skill sets, and then usually you're sent off and your dry run is going to count. That's it. But when you go through an internship program, the students get to be in an environment with professionals that are seasoned, that can kind of guide them and mentor them, and they have the ability to fail and learn and realize that it's not the end of the world if they fail, and at the same time they can grow more and more skills to be able to become better when they actually do, if they leave us and they go into the working environment.
Now, yesterday we spent some time at JTED at the medical assistance program that we're seeing some video of now. When you get a JTED student, what is the difference between a JTED student and perhaps another intern? What's the difference in the training?
So I think the basic training is fairly similar to the other programs that we get through some of the other allied health schools. But really the difference between a JTED student and another student is the JTED students tend to be younger, and you can see at a younger age that they are already ready for a professional environment, which a lot of the other students we get at the same age, maybe they didn't have that same training all the way through, and so they learned it later on, and so it's a little bit tougher skill, I think, at times for them. But definitely JTED students come in, they are very energetic, they're very excited to be there. To them, you can really see that this is an option that they've taken on and that they're looking at this program as a means either for a career path or to get them through to something else. So a lot of kids after high school, they go to college. Well, not everybody gets a free ride into college. They have to have a job. They want something on a resume to apply for graduate school, and it starts to build a foundation, and a foundation of success and a foundation of achievement that's really through their own means. So they go and they become better students. They go and they become better workers.
Well, you're a business, and JTED is important to you. Have you had other businesses that have stepped up and said, wait a minute, we need this program?
Yes, absolutely. We have students working in the Jim Click Automotive Group who are service writers and mechanics and doing extremely well, and they're very valued in that organization. We have a salon owner, Gadabout Salons, has hired 8 of our graduates, and including his own daughter, went through our program, but he viewed our program and selected it for his own child, and I think that speaks volumes about the quality of instruction that we have. But Aline is correct.
What's the relationship here?
I mean, that's the whole purpose of JTED, to work with business and industry hand in hand, because if we're not, we wouldn't be preparing students with the skills that business and industry need. There would be a disconnect. And so we work with business and industry leaders consistently throughout the year. We have different committees. For every program area has a committee of business and industry leader who advise us on what the curriculum should be, what skills they're looking for, what the equipment and training equipment should look like.
Aline, what's the message to other business owners that you think you as a business person can deliver? What's the message out there?
As a business manager, I look at it and I say, well, it's great, first of all, to get a skilled workforce in. I think that in general, the United States educational system doesn't prepare a skilled workforce for entry. And so a lot of times I get students in, and I do have students that come in and they're not trained. And I spend so much time, and we spend a lot of money training students who are, as we all know, going to leave. You know, maybe we'll get 2 or 3 years out of them, and that adds to our turnover rates, and that increases the amount of cost we have to it. But if I can get a skilled worker in, who, yes, is probably still going to leave in 3 to 4 years, but I don't have to train them at the same amount, my cost has greatly reduced. So it's really advantageous for us. Also, it's kind of, at some point, you know, you get extra hands at no cost. So as a business, it really is valuable.
I want to thank both of you for coming forward. JTED is an important program for our community, and I hope over the next year we can pull forces together to help change some minds up at the state legislature and get some money back into JTED. In the end, JTED is all about jobs. It's about preparing students for the future. It's a matter of pay me now or pay me later. It's better said, I think, by a JTED student who maybe somebody will run across one of these days, and they'll be very lucky because this girl will be well trained. We talked to her yesterday,
yes,
didn't we?
We sure did. And she's very enthusiastic and looking forward to starting her new job.
Well, let's take that video and we'll say goodbye now, and thank you very much for joining us.
I understand a really important thing happened to you yesterday. What was it?
Yes, sir. I got offered the job at TMC for phlebotomy.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
What does that mean for your future?
That means I get a head start into a hospital. I'm going to school right now to become a medical examiner. I'm doing slow steps, so I want to become a nurse, and being at TMC, it's really opening up my gateway to, you know, possibly meeting new people and people that can really help me get into the medical field. I would not have been able to do my studies without JTED, simply because this program, I mean, it's just such a great program. You know, a medical assistant program somewhere else, it's really expensive, and unfortunately for our low-income families who don't have that money to, you know, send their children to school, this is the best alternative I can honestly think of, and we're getting quality education. And what they tell me is that I've been more prepared than anybody else who's come from any other institution. So that makes me feel really, really good.
What's your reaction about the possibility that this program could be closed by the legislature cutting off funds?
I think it's absolutely ridiculous, because I feel like they, you know, it's all about the money, but they never think about the students and what we want, you know, and what's going to be best for us. I mean, we're the future generation, and they need to think that. They need to take that into consideration, because, you know, we will be here for a long time, and what's going to happen if we don't get that education?